Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the C.R.E.A.M podcast. So excited to have you back today. We have Jason Matthews. How are you today, Jason?
I'm doing good on this sunny Saturday here in California.
Yeah, and we have episode number 2 of C.R.E.A.M.
Sweet. I'm super excited. Episode 2, we're making hurdles. I love this.
Absolutely. And thanks, everyone, to listen to the first one. We had a really good response. A lot of people listening, and it's now on Spotify and Apple Pods and Google Pods and YouTube and everywhere you could imagine. So we appreciate the support.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody, thank you. Make sure you share with your friends. Hit that subscribe button if you listen to it on Spotify or Google Music or Apple or however way you listen to it. Make sure you hit that subscribe and share with your friends. Share this great content that we're putting out right now.
Jason, now in this segment of the C.R.E.A.M podcast, you're going to give your weekly shout out.
Definitely. I want to give out to Pink Sweetie Sugar Cakes and Treats. I had their peach cobbler and their caramel cake for Thanksgiving. The family loved it. So I definitely want to give out a shout out to Tina Johnson and Pink Sweet Sugar Cakes and Treats. Also, I want to give a happy anniversary and shout out to C.R.E.A.M Wines as it reached their 5-year anniversary. Just last week, I went to their 5-year anniversary party, or technically 6, since they didn't have a party last year due to COVID, but they make some absolutely fantastic wines. So we do want to give Paula Harrell her 5-year anniversary and a special shout out for her.
Jason, now we're going to talk about a product or service that's helping a lot of your clients. As a great financial advisor, you see different needs and different folks all day who are trying to retire, invest, save money, and better themselves financially. So what product or service are you using a lot for your clients that's doing just that?
Yeah, especially right now at the end of the year, I wanted to bring up the cash balance plan. So if you're a small business owner, you've been kicking butt, having tons of wins, you're having a lot of success, and you're looking for additional tax deduction, you have until December 31st to do a cash balance plan. With a cash balance plan, you can contribute more than you traditionally can in an IRA, a SEP, or a 401k plan. You can actually contribute up to $450,000, and it's all tax deductible. So if you've been kicking butt and you're a small business, 1 to 10 employees, consider doing a cash balance plan before December 31st of this year.
All right, Jason, this point of the podcast, we have a very important segment, a very serious topic: how much the average American spends on a first date. So I was actually, I saw a news headline in Cosmo. I don't read Cosmo. Let's be clear about that. Okay. But I did see a news article pop up that talks about the average spending for someone on a first date. So basically, how much do you think the average person is spending on a first date these days?
I don't think it's that much. Maybe 40, 50 bucks. I just remember when I used to be single, I used to have my first dates either 2 locations. Either we went hiking and I just bought some sandwiches or made some sandwiches. We went hiking and did some great sightseeing, or we went to the beach and just did that, or we went to Pete's or Jumbo Juice. So I would say maybe 40, 50 bucks the max for a great first date price.
Okay, so that's a great, and that's an awesome first date too, because it's during the daytime. You could actually see the person, right? And it's not just going out and getting dinner or getting a bunch of drinks. I like that. It's healthier and a little bit original. So let me ask you this though: when it came to, dinner, drinks, a movie, whatever it was, how much do you think the average American spends then?
Couple $100, especially here in the Bay Area, where right now the average drink, if you go to a bar, is probably like 14, 15 bucks. You get 2 of them a piece. That's what, $30, $60. You eat the food. Let's say both your plates are another 40. That's 80. That's 80 plus, and that's 60, 140 plus a little dessert maybe. So yeah, I'd say about $200. Average person right now in the Bay Area is expensive. Dating is expensive. Don't every single click on Honey or Bumble or whatever dating that you have. It can add up, and it can be very expensive.
Wow, that's great. It saves you money to be married for sure in many ways. But I'll tell you what, though, you have it smart though with that coffee date. That's a great way to do it.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, so this is what the article that allegedly I read in Cosmo says. Now, these numbers are outdated. It was 2015 numbers. So, but it said men spend $80 on a first date. but you could update that to 2021, and depending on what part of the country, and you're probably right on, where it's probably about $200 in the Bay, maybe $150, $120 other parts of the US. They also mentioned that in their lifetime, the average American spends 121 grand in dating.
Woo, that is expensive. 120 grand on dating. That is so expensive, man. Imagine if you don't date, it could be way cheaper. Or imagine if you took your date to Costco just for some free samples and a hot dog and a churro.
Now you're speaking my language. I like that plan, huh?
Yes, sir. Baby, yes, sir. Wow.
Baby, we're going to Costco. We're going to Costco. Eat all you want, huh?
Yeah, girl, go ahead and get seconds and thirds.
You cheap ass. You're cheaper than me, I think. So that's how much the average person spends on a first date. All right, Jason, now we're going to talk about something in the economy that's not inflation. I know everyone's talking about inflation, but let's talk about positive numbers in the labor market. According to the U.S. Labor Department, the economy actually added 531,000 non-farm jobs in October. And that's a huge increase from September, where we had less than 200,000 new jobs. And also it exceeded expectations from economists and analysts who thought there would only be 450,000 jobs. So the U.S. labor market looks like it's bouncing back. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I definitely think it's bouncing back. I think the big difference is that after September, it was the end of the federal unemployment program. So a lot of people started looking for or getting aggressive, looking for work at that point. Also, what's very interesting as well is when you look at those numbers, the top job growth area was leisure and hospitality, which is saying that people have been locked up in their house due to COVID, and they're ready to travel and do some luxuries and travel and see, get on the road again. So the biggest job growth with 164,000 was leisure and hospitality. So people are back being comfortable, going to hotels, Airbnb, and traveling again, which is a huge numbers that we're seeing as well.
Yeah, especially like you said, those, going out to bars, restaurants, hotels, traveling. And they say for the past Thanksgiving, the airline numbers and the number of people traveling, where it's almost close to normal, almost close to 2019, or even there.
Yeah, that just tells people how we're getting, as a society, closer, more comfortable with COVID at this point. So very interesting.
There you go. So we had some interesting numbers from October's labor market. All right, Jason, this segment of the podcast, we're going to talk about the news headline of the week. So I just saw Friday, November 26th, Black Friday. Dow suffers worst Black Friday sell-off since 1931. And it was also the Dow Jones's worst day of 2021 so far.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. The biggest attribute they're saying for the Dow sell-off was that there are the reports of the new variant of COVID down in South Africa that did scare the markets, which is huge. So that's the reason why. Also, people are thinking that the economy is slowing down due to less government money, and the government starting to taper the QE programs.
Wow. So that's a little analysis why the Dow suffered its worst Black Friday sell-off since 1931. And one thing that we know, it's what goes down comes up, and pretty quickly. So I'm sure by the time that we publish this podcast, we'll probably have a few great days on the Dow Jones as well, in the stock market.
Yeah, so true. Especially if the numbers come good for Black Friday. This is for Cyber Monday. If those numbers are good, then you'll see the market bounce back instantly. So you're right about that.
Yeah, and that's our headline of the podcast. Okay, this one, let me see. I'll do a stat of the podcast for the dollar stores, and you could have some fun with this one.
Okay.
All right, Jason, now for the statistic of the podcast, we have one that raised a few eyebrows. The statistic is now that the dollar stores across the country, which is a huge business, are raising their prices to $1.25. So dollar stores are not really selling things for $1 anymore. What do you think about that?
Whoa. The price of at the Dollar Tree went up one whole quarter. That's a lot, 25%. And now when I go to the store, I'm going to ask somebody, can I borrow 25 cents? This is crazy. And it just shows you how much inflation we have. Everybody keeps talking about inflation, and this is showing and reflecting inflation right now. So make sure you bring an extra quarter when you buy something from the dollar store. I go there for right now during the holidays for my Christmas bag. So now when I bring $1.25 instead of $1 for my Christmas bags and all that good stuff from there.
Well, and everything goes up in price, like you said. It's no big deal, except should they change the name? Should we force them to change the name now? Is it false advertising?
It is false advertising. They need to be switching name to $1.25 tree.
$1.25 tree. Or they could do dollar and then the 0.25 like super small so no one could see it, huh?
Yeah. So on all the buildings you have just a little small 25 at the very bottom of it, and for them to have to redo all their signs. That'd be perfect.
You know what this reminds me of, actually, and you're too young, you don't remember this, but with payphones, it used to be when I grew up, now I sound old because I am, but it was like actually a nickel. And then for most of the time it was a dime, you put 10 cents in the payphone, and then it went all the way up to 25%. And that was a huge jump from 10%, from 10 cents to 25 cents. So this actually, for some reason, made me remember that.
I don't even remember the last time I seen a payphone, Norm. That's crazy. Those were the good old days having a payphone. Now,
yeah, the good old days. And
those
they
are
actually
the good old days.
They actually had a phone book attached. Do you remember they had the phone book too?
I do remember they had a phone book. I guess the only time I see they have payphones are in jails and prisons.
Well, I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'm not gonna say where I saw the payphone and stuff like that, but All right, Jason, now in the podcast, we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to a lot of homeowners, people who are refinancing, and people who are looking to buy property, and that is mortgage rates, of course. We're in an unusually low mortgage rate environment. We've seen record lows for the last 2 years or so. And now mortgage rates have crept up a tiny bit, but they're still right around the 3%, a little bit higher than 3% for a 30-year fixed on the national average, which is just darn incredible. So people should take advantage by refinancing or buying or investing in property now if they can. But you wanted to put it in context, how great these rates are, by telling us the average rate for this week throughout history.
Yeah, definitely. So let's look at these numbers. So this year, the average 30-year rate is 3.1%. In 2011, just 10 years ago, it was 3.98. In 2001, the year that I graduated high school, it was 7.02%. Wow. 1991, it was 8.7. Now, this is the number that's bonkers. In 1981, the average rate in 1981 was 17.21%. 17.21%.
17%. That's like buying your whole house on a bad credit card, huh?
Exactly. That is crazy.
That's wild. Yeah. And so people now who are, I'm waiting, I'm thinking about it. Oh, next year prices will come down, or, just that hesitancy, or they're maybe they don't realize how low rates really are, mortgage rates, and how much of an opportunity that is. Those numbers for the average rate this week in history definitely put it in context.
Definitely. Think about it. In 1981, your mortgage, you double how much you pay your mortgage every 4 years in interest. That's crazy.
That's wild. And think about this, back in 81, 91, even more so in 2001, though it changed quickly, you had to put 20% down to buy a house. So in 81, you were putting a 20% down payment and paying 17%. I mean, talk about a slap in the face, huh?
Definitely. You think about that. Now you get an FHA on 3.5 or 5% down and still get 3.1%. Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Definitely. So people, we encourage them to definitely refinance or contact their mortgage broker. They could talk to you about the big picture and you could divert them to someone you trust. But definitely that puts it in context with mortgage rates throughout history. All right, Jason, this part of the C.R.E.A.M podcast, we're going to talk about a crazy financial fact. We're talking about household debt, and we're in the economy. Everyone's speaking about inflation and what's going to happen with COVID and the stock market, but it's sort of getting ignored how people are spending and racking up credit cards and mounting debt again. So in the third quarter of 2021, household debt actually climbed to over 15 trillion total. And
Mm.
so debt is out of control. What do you see on the landscape with debt?
Yeah, so definitely when you see where the debt went at, it seemed like there was a jump a lot in mortgage debt, student loan debt, auto debt, and credit card debt. And you could definitely see that. And I think it's going to continue to increase. For auto debt, I'm looking at it since the family expanding with another addition. I'm looking at a new car, and I'm noticing the price jump of cars because of inflation, the supply chain. And if you don't have the cash on hand for it, the cost of cars and everything else has drastically went up, which means you're about to pay more to purchase a car, which means you're about to go further in debt. And that's a huge one for auto debt. And then student loan debt, college, it's crazy to me that colleges and university prices still went up, even though a lot of people still didn't go to school in person, to me, which is crazy.
Yeah. If I was a parent with kids in school, hey, where's my discount? No one's living in the dorms, no one's driving to class, but you're right. Auto debt actually went up 28 billion just in the third quarter of 2021, in one quarter. And over the year, auto debt went up 83 billion in 1 year. So, and all these rates and all this debt we have, all the debt we have, what's going to happen when rates start rising, when your interest rate on that debt doubles, maybe not with student loans, but with auto debt, with credit cards. So people are going to be in a bad way again.
Yeah, definitely. And when I was looking at my wife, she's thinking about getting a Tahoe, and we went to a lot yesterday, and a lot of lots are actually out of cars. And if they do have a new car, they're charging you for a Tahoe 15,000, now it's 2022, 15,000 to 25,000 over MSRP. And I talked to one dealership for the Corvette. Corvettes are 30 to 50,000 over MSRP, which is crazy compared to just a year or two ago where you could negotiate below MSRP for cars. So now if you want a good price that's at MSRP, you actually have to do factory order. And that could take 12 weeks all the way up to 8 months. Or with the Corvette, the guy told me until 2026 to get it because of the supply chain issue. So imagine how much people are just increasing their debt because of getting a vehicle. So it's very interesting.
And where people are going to run into problems too is after 2-3 years, and they're like, all right, I want to trade it in for a new lease, or I want to sell it and buy a new car, and they're going to be, well, you're $20,000 underwater. So people are going to run into some big problems when they think their car is worth something, and eventually these supply chain issues will get ironed out, and people are going to be sort of stuck in these cars and these financing deals or these leases for a long time.
Definitely. So if you have to negotiate the best deal possible and get the best rate that you possibly can. So if you go into the car lot, make sure your credit's tight, make sure it's straight, and take advantage of the low rates right now, and make sure you do not do a long-term rate. If you have to get a car at 72 or 84 months, don't do it, because you're definitely going to be underwater at that time, because those are horrible loans during 72 to 84 months. They're licking their chops at you at the car lot when they see you negotiating on the monthly payment and willing to do 84 months. It's a bad deal, especially with a car that has high mileage as a used car. Then also for credit card debt, look at right now where it increases your credit card debt. But if interest rates do rise, remember, credit cards are variable rates, and those are going to jump up. Look at refinancing if you're not paying it off, and refinancing it into a personal loan rate that can be drastically cheaper than what you're receiving right now.
Yeah, definitely good advice how to deal with mounting debt. All right, Jason, now in the podcast, you're going to give a little sound advice. We just talked about debt and credit cards and how it's rising a lot in America. And a lot of people have credit cards that they don't even know the interest rate, the APR, what their fees are. So you're going to talk about 7 ways you could spot a bad credit card.
Definitely. Number one way that you can spot a bad credit card is you receive an unsolicited offer in the mail for a credit card. Number two, the card has a high annual fee while offering no rewards or perks. So you see some cards that might offer rewards or perks for its mileage or money back, but they might have an annual fee for that. But if it has no annual fee, it might not be the good card, and that's another sign. Number three, a lot of unnecessary fees are buried in the fine print. Processing fee, credit fee, transaction fee, service fee, fees. You don't want to pay those fees. The sign of a bad credit card. Number four, I forgot to mention this, should have mentioned before. You didn't check the APR and see how high it is.
Yeah.
You might not know your credit card interest rate, but you probably have no clue what your APR and annual percentage rate is. The APR represents the true cost of any money you're borrowing because it encapsulates the interest rate, but also fees and any other charges.
Yep.
Some cards advertise a low or reasonable rate, but their APR is way too high to be considered responsible because of the fees that are attached.
Mm-hmm.
According to the U.S. News, consumers with bad credit typically pay 20.15% to 22.85% APR, and something as high as 30%.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Expensive.
And people don't even realize it because maybe, maybe their interest rate is 11 or 14, or maybe even it was the introductory rate, which you'll talk about, and they don't even realize what their APR is and the true cost that they're paying.
Definitely. And number five, your credit card restricted to one retailer. Number six, your credit card only report to all three credit bureaus. So they might not, if you might have a credit card, but might not go to TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. And the last one is the introductory offer is too good to be true. So if they have something that you can't believe, watch out for it, and then read the fine line of fine prints.
Yeah, definitely. Like not to cut you off, but definitely with those introductory offers, they want you to transfer balances and play the shell game, I call it, where, let me move my money from this card to this card because it's 0% and start this new account. And they know they're going to get you. We're not smarter than the banks. We're not smarter than the credit card companies. They know at some point the party is going to end, that 0% introductory offer is going to end, and you're going to be paying something sky high.
Yeah, so definitely. And what happens is if you're a day late, oftentimes on making that payment for those 0% offers, or after that expiration date, that the interest rates will jump up and start at that time. So read the fine print, be very cautious of it. I know right now I have a 0% credit card for my Care Credit when I have my wisdom tooth pulled, but I do know that April 1st of 2022, the interest rate is going to jump up. So I'm making sure I have it saved on my calendar to pay it off beforehand. So I want to take advantage of the 0%. So I will be paying it off on March 15th. So just be cautious of that. And if you can, make sure that you pay off your credit cards every single month.
Yeah.
For you don't have to pay for the servicing of the debt, which is the biggest thing.
That's huge. Yeah. You could use a credit card and, it's convenience, a little safer. Maybe there's some perks or miles or rewards, but pay it off every month. And then you're really beating the system, but very few people do that. And so that's why credit card companies keep sending you offers. I saw this stat as well, talking about credit cards that are bad, or they basically prey on people with subprime credit scores. Out of about 365 million credit cards in the US, which is a lot, about 64 million of them, or about 1 in 6, are held by consumers with subprime credit or financial profiles.
Wow, that's crazy. And you know what's interesting about that? I'm not sure if you ever read the book, The History of Money, but it's a really good book just about the history of money. But they talked about how the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, where they were against usury and interest. And interest really didn't start until the Italian Renaissance period, where one group was starting to charge people interest. But before then, it was considered a sin for usury. And what you just told me is a sign of usury almost, which is very interesting.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. So that sounds like a good book. What was that book called again? The History of Money? The
History of Money.
All right, I'll have to pick that one up. We usually talk about a book or another podcast or something educational that you're into, you're listening to, you're reading right now. So that'll serve as our book of the week for this podcast. All right, Jason, now we completed episode number 2 of the C.R.E.A.M podcast. Thank you so much for your time. What do you have to say to the people?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody happy holidays. Enjoy the time with your family during this period of time. Thank you. Also, I'm thankful for everybody who tuned in, watched the full episodes, and everybody have a good Black Friday. Saturday and holiday season.